It's time for the Alien Conspiracy Podcast. We are your hosts, Agent ETA,
Agent Ether,
Agent Kruger,
and Agent Anderson. Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. We also have a bunch of other links which I've actually consolidated in one place on Linktree. Check it out in the description, but I highly recommend Discord, where you can interact with the hosts and listen to live shows. This week's episode, Spooky Stories.
that was terrible.
Bravo, bravo.
Terrible, how dare you?
Just in time for Halloween, though.
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing this week, Spooky Stories. But before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody that we have a new Patreon. If you'd like to support the show, we got 3 different tiers right now. We basically have the first tier, $3, which is ad-free and early access. And then we have the $5 tier, which is bonus content. And we have the $10 tier where you get to help us decide what we're going to do next on our show. We'll have votes. We have also started a YouTube channel recently with the gracious help of Diamond, who is in the audience right now. Much appreciated. We don't have live YouTube video content, but I will start that very soon. I got some ideas. Like there's a solo thing I want to do. I want to do like a strange news show, which will probably just be me going over strange headlines that I've found in the news or whatever. Not a big deal. But also, I want to get these other agents equipped with webcams, and hopefully soon we can, show you all of our ugly made-for-radio faces. I'm sure everybody's dying, except for Ether.
Yay! What are you talking about? I'm pretty as fuck.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I'm hoping to get that going.
And then classy.
And then you could watch, at that point, we may actually switch the live show over to YouTube, because then it might be easier, but I'm going to have to look into, there's different platforms and all sorts of different ways to do that. So I'm going to have to figure that out. I'm not like a video guy, so it's going to be a little bit of work to figure it. But anyways, we'll figure it out. Not a big deal. So anyways, this week's episode, Spooky Stories. And I have it on good authority that Agent Kruger wants to start first. Why don't you let us know what you got for us, Agent Kruger?
All right, just a little bit of a tale of a wandering idiot, i.e. me, going to a place called Devil's Gate. It's in California, and I'm doing it's like Pasadena area. Are you guys familiar with that?
Not very, I'm not.
It sounds familiar, but everything is named Devil something or other, so I don't know.
Right, it's always that spoopy. It's in Los Angeles County area. It's so it's like a flood control dam, and at one point there was an actual mental hospital at the top. Now it's really it's more of a dam. It's a dam but there's these gates below that people have claimed to have super spoopy encounters, feeling a presence of hands there or somebody beside them, and temperature drops in frequent places. So this one was actually weird because it wasn't just one encounter. So it was something that followed me at the end of the night, it felt like. So it was 2 different things that happened that night. Now, there was us trying to find the place, was just a nightmare in itself. And then when we finally got to parking there, we had to wander down through these woods. And it was just bushes, not woods, crazy stuff like that. But what was weird and eerie was that there was, on our way to try to find this place on foot, there was a group, what we can only make out to be men in their late 30s, early 40s. And they were in a complete, a single file line walking through the bushes. And I shit you not, they were carrying torches. And I have I am not making this up. And they went and made this giant bonfire. We didn't get close, but what we could hear was not chanting or anything like that, but it was like somebody like a group of men that wanted to scream and shout out obscenities and stuff that's going on in their lives with just as much hate and anger as possibly they could muster up. So it was like, and I'm quoting it, it's like, oh, that fucking bitch, she hates me. Oh, God, I love her. And like, it was the weirdest, like, I am not kidding. It was funny.
Like a lot of it was random?
It was so random. It felt like just a group meetup where guys could drink. It almost felt like more an aggressive version of like Randy from South Park meeting up with the other witches for Halloween, where they just like do a bunch of drugs and just, party. But this was like they were surrounded and they went each one by one. It was like a giant fire and we could totally make out the bonfire from a distance through the woods. But it was like we didn't want to get near it because we felt like it was like a cult meeting or like a KKK meeting, man. It was that type of language that was being used. It was people using, but the weird thing is that we can make out other ethnicity. Oh God, other races there. Thank you. And they were just angry. And that's the thing that like really just we could feel their displeasure. And it was like, okay, so that's happening. And so we made like a last minute, like we were supposed to go through where they were at though. And it was like, what the hell? Like, okay, they're kind of ruining it, right? But like these guys are clearly, fucking pissed at the world. So I don't want to like go and then somebody wants to fight us for no reason, right? And then they all jump us. So we were
excuses.
Right? Yeah. So so we were like, hey, you know what? Let's just go, this way. And we just like went right, left, and we got lost. And so we ended up finding a creek, like what we thought was the proper way of going, which was just this creek. It was pretty dried up. It wasn't anything like crazy, but the thing that like we started feeling and would clearly hear was shuffling of rocks and something that was clearly in our like there was something there.
It's like around you or?
It was around us. Like, I don't want to say like bushes rustling or whatever, but it was like, when you would hear somebody's foot kind of slip off a rock or something like that and then like hit the edge of something and it's like they would quickly try to like hide themselves. It was on that level. And it was just us, at the time we were 17, 18. And of course we're like, for the most part, you're still a kid, whether or not you know it or not, how eager everybody is to be an adult these days. But it was like we were still childish, like, oh my God, what the hell is that? And like cuddling up with each other because we're all freaked out. But I mean, in the end, though, like, so here's where I say something started following me, though, is that we actually looked up afterwards or like while we were doing it on our phones that people would have that sense of something tagging along with them for however many miles it took you to get to your house. People complained about their radio losing signals, or some people with XM radios even that would randomly start shuffling out of nowhere and just wouldn't stop, and they would actually have to turn the system off and stop using it and then restart it. And then the shuffling would still continue to happen.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
There was still white noise that a lot of people would end up getting because a lot of them just had like their FM radios on at the time. And so there was this one specific story that I know for a fact, like I believe 110%, is that there was a guy who was supposed to work security there, and he actually ended up quitting his job because he drove to do patrol and he was in a pickup truck, one of those Toyota like single cab pickup truck, those little Tacomas. I believe, Tacoma, just the little guys. And when he was driving, his radio started going off, his actual walkie-talkie radio, where somebody, like, he could have sworn somebody was trying to make contact with him. But like he just kept shutting off. He's supposed to keep the radio on though, just for dispatch purposes and all this stuff. And as he was driving though, he said he could feel like if somebody's next to you, you feel that electromagnetic like vibe, or like I don't know how to
feel
say
like
it.
Presence,
like a presence. 100%.
Sometimes like you feel like somebody's watching you, like, right next to you.
Yes. And so when he was driving, he felt like somebody was in his cab. And it got to the point where he would like literally. So like you see things out of the corner of your eye where it make you churn. And that's what we dealt with, is that we were convinced. I kept seeing this little boy, and he was in all white, in a white shirt, white shorts, not like underwear or something like that, not tidy whities, but it was on that level of just light, loose clothes. And it was it just was the weirdest thing. And then like come to find out, like, you know, this guy, like he would sit there, like the security guard, as he was driving and it was cold at night, he could totally feel that like a warmth. And you always hear about the cold the dead bring, if you do believe in ghosts and stuff like that. But he said the complete opposite, that he actually turned his heater off and that the window itself started to steam up. And so it was just like, holy shit, that sent us shivers up our spine. But like to kind of go back a little bit to us. So we were going up and down this like creek and stuff like that, throwing shit, trying to be all tough, like, oh, you know, get out of here, you know, like trying to be all tough. Right. Yeah. But when it came down to it, man, I was shitting bricks, and we were just a couple kids. And this isn't as scary as like the next story I was going to talk about, because I actually spent the night on the Queen Mary. And I was by myself in a room. Lucky me. It wasn't intentional. I was with family. And, but anyway, just before I get there, like, again, just going, this isn't really the best story now I say it out loud, but on our way back, I had to drive alone myself. And at the time I had a Toyota 4Runner 2000, and like from the year 2000, and it was an emerald green Toyota, and it was a beautiful car. And I still miss having that, car. But I shit you not, just like that story about the steamed up windows, I kept getting that. And now here's where it really freaked me the fuck out, is that there would be intermittent times where my radio would lower down and I would hear a tap on the window. Not like a hard, like direct tap, like somebody knocking on your window to get your attention, but almost like a nail on the window, like just random.
Oh, that's
just
crazy, dude.
And I stopped, at one point I stopped the car, and I actually was like looking around, got out of my car, looked in the back seat. I was like, what the hell is that? Like, get out of here. Cause like, that's what I was taught, was if you ever felt like you had a demon, you're supposed to hit it dead on, or not like a demon, I should say. This is like my mom telling me this, is that if you ever feel like you have the devil trying to like impose himself in your life, you're supposed to sit there, shout, and muster everything within your body to say, get away, get out of here, I don't want any of that. And I was like scared. Like I was like, please get out of here, you know, like I don't want any of this, sorry, Mr. Ghost. But so like, I guess it wasn't as spooky as that, but like, again, like careful where you go near some claimed haunted places, because other people claim that radios would go off, things that they would have, electronics would either wind up dead and not working until they got home, and or whatever. And at the time I was house sitting at a beach house. And so when I got back to the beach house, it wasn't my home, and this wasn't like a home I felt like was blessed. I had my mom and my brother at the other house, but this house was like all wood floors, and there was a black cat that was there. And this is where I'll end the story, is that I was downstairs, and anytime you would hear anything, it was pretty easy to hear and understand, like, okay, it's upstairs in the guest room. Oh, it's downstairs in the guest room. Oh, it's upstairs in the master bedroom. Like you could tell where it is. And I was sitting on the couch, and I had this in the Great Dane I was house sitting for. I was babysitting the Great Dane and the house, and she also owned a black cat. And I get goosebumps at this time, is that I heard something do that nice loud boom, like at the top of the stairs, and it was loud enough to like wake me out of like half awake, half asleep. And maybe it was in my imagination, but I shit you not, like I heard something, and I was like, whoa, like, you know, got up, started walking towards the stairs, and started announcing myself, like, hello, Theo, you up there? Like I started calling the cat's name, and I started to go up, and like what freaked me the fuck out was that when I started to approach the stairs, somehow the darkness in a room could freak you out alone, right? And I was in a pretty lit like town, like city. At the time, we had street lights around, so lights would shine in through the windows. But for some odd reason, this time around, I cannot stress to you enough how dark this dark was. You would look into this black room and somehow it had like 20 different shades. Like somehow it was like darker than dark regularly. And I started to feel that presence as if something was there and ominous looking at me. And I was freaked the fuck out. And it wasn't until I looked behind me and I saw the cat right behind me. And then I heard again a creak up in the fucking upstairs. I took both pets and loaded them up into my car and bailed the fuck home. And they slept at my place. They were like, please don't take it. I know you can do it when you need to, Kevin, but ultimately let them sleep here because it was a new dog and it was a service dog. It was a service Great Dane. And but she wanted him to get used to being home and stuff like that because he gets homesick, he'll start to gnaw on things and this and that. So she was like, I don't want to pay for anything. I was like, it's fine. Literally after that moment, I was like, get the fuck out of here. I'm out. I'm good. I'm out. Like, come on, let's go. And like, I don't like picking cats up, and I didn't care. I got bit like twice because I was like, you're coming with me. We're going. Come on, get in the car. Like,
doesn't matter if this is too important. We need to leave.
Like, got right in the car, and that was the end of that. And then just to make a long story short, so I did sleep on the Queen Mary by myself, and there was reports of a little girl that would wander the halls at night and that you would hear at in distant times. And I'm pretty sure this was the staff trying to freak me out, was that they said that if you would just let everything go quiet, you would hear the laughter and the playful glee of children. And when you look up some of the passengers, there was a little boy who got his arm caught in a chute, and it actually ripped his arm off, and he died. And so they're convinced that spirits live there to this day, and those sons of bitches will run a haunted house at the Queen Mary, and it's a great time, and they know how to like spook you there. But this time it was like, so just to make it a little bit extra spooky for me sleeping on the ship, my family decided to take pictures of me in dark corners. And I was like, no, let's do it. I was acting all tough, but my like sphincter was as tight as, like it was it was tight. And I was like, oh no, like let's hurry this up, guys. So they would take pictures. And do you guys ever believe that like some souls are reflected in the form of a orb, like it's a sphere. It's like a little circular dot that you'll get in your camera when you use the flash. And if it's on a dusty night or whatever, you'll see a lot. Well, my cousin, she is into the belief of Reiki, spiritual, like she's a gypsy at heart. And so she was convincing me and everybody on that boat that I had something lingering with me. And I went to Devil's Gate before the Queen Mary trip, or when I stayed there. Because, we all go through that little phase of wanting to be creeped out and then actually go and see some of the spooky stuff, especially when you're in high school, because you want to go see your friends, not just see your friends, but go do something, silly and stupid. But when we went, we were just, it was just when I slept by myself, there was for sure footsteps I would hear like pass down the hall. And we were told that you were going to have some guest on there, but then it was ultimately just going to be us. So it was really pretty cool. We got a suite. And of course, everybody was so scared that the family all cuddled up in one other room. And I got left by myself in the other guest room. And I was by myself. And I was like, what the hell, guys? Come on, thanks. So if I die, like, that's your fault, or if something happens, that's totally your fault. Yada, yada, yada. But yeah, we just took pictures. There was spheres all around us. And we were just... It was really creepy, and there was like I could say more. I don't want to take much more time, but it was down the halls again. You would see this darkness that was just as dark as you can imagine as the night sky, but somehow darker, as if there was no moon or any reflection of light whatsoever. And like you would just feel like somebody there, like it was a full classroom, or like, you know what I mean? Like it was something there. Like you were just gonna like I had moments where I was like, hey, Faye, like, you know, calling out my cousin's name, and I would turn around and nobody was there. And I was like, whoa,
Really?
no, somebody's in there. Cause we went to the dining room, like the play halls and all this. And it's a beautiful, huge ship. If anybody ever has like a want to go there, I suggest it full heartedly. It's a great time.
I've been there. I've been there a couple
Beautiful
times.
ship.
The Queen Mary.
Yeah. And but we went to the halls and to the lower decks where supposedly this boy got his arm caught in a chute. It was one of those, not those waiter, dummy waiters or whatever, but it was an actual elevator chute where the thing at the time lost its traction or whatever, but it severed his arm clean off. And like they couldn't, you know, wrap it up to try to save the poor kid's life, and he ended up dying. But yeah, it was just creepy times, and it's hard to explain it, and you really give it that emphasis on the creepiness level. But like it's like a lot of things, if you're there, it's a different experience, right, than just me telling you about it.
There's like a certain feeling to be there, and a lot of those, because some of the rooms and stuff in the Queen Mary are some of them are kind of cramped, and even like some of the hallways and stuff you go through, you know, it is a ship, you know, and that's kind of, well, I mean, the Queen Mary has a long history of these type of stories, and most of them, from what I understand, relate to its service during World War II, where it was like a medical transport ship.
Right.
And there were a lot of people that unfortunately passed away on that ship because of injuries and stuff. They just didn't make it during the voyage or what have you, you know. So, I mean, and it's not just that, but like, yeah, the Queen Mary is an old ship. It has a long history, you know, and there's a lot of people that have reported experiences there and stuff. And I mean, you could do a whole episode on just like ghost experiences and accounts that people have on the Queen Mary, you know.
Right.
And I actually have kind of an anecdotal story that's kind of funny. My oldest brother, I don't know if he wants his name mentioned, so I won't, but there was one of those Halloween events that happened on the Queen Mary, and I think Murphy in the audience was there, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But at any rate, he used to work on the Queen Mary, and so he knows like some like the different like ins and outs of like, you know, how to get different places where like the regular public isn't supposed to go. And he had brought his son down into a certain area, took a picture of him, and there was a lot of dust in the air. So like, you know, when he took the picture, it looked like there were spirit orbs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I was mentioning. Yeah, they were all over me, man.
A funny thing was that the radio station Coast to Coast, if anybody's that's relatively famous, especially in this arena, I guess, you know. But like he actually took because I think it was a digital camera, I think, and he took it to their booth and showed them the picture. Look, I just took this picture right now. That's a spirit orb, and they're like, oh yeah, oh wow, yeah. Look, we have proof, we have evidence. This just happened, you know, like. I always thought that was hilarious because, like, to be honest, like the whole spirit orb thing. I mean, yeah, could it be true? Yeah, sure. I guess it could, but there's so many other things that could cause that to happen on a camera or on a video or what have you. You know, like it's just there's too many explanations, reasonable explanations that could explain that away. You know, to where it's just like, all right, yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a spirit or what have you. Although it could be. Like, I'm not saying I believe it's not. Like, there's no evidence that has ever been presented that isn't true. But all the evidence that I have seen could be, you know, faked. You know what I mean? It's just it's not compelling. Excuse me. Sorry. It's not compelling enough to make me a believer. Like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love ghost stories. I love hearing ghost stories, especially from people that actually have experienced something themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it gives you goosebumps. Ooh, you know, like it's so interesting, you know, and it's like I mean, this is a never ending field of stories, like where there are plenty of other channels and stuff that have that just concentrate on this alone, and there is material forever. You know what I mean? You can even go back in time because, you know, spirits and stuff like that have been around. The tales of spirits and the stories of different type of entities or what have you I mean, they go back as long as recorded history does, you know? So, I mean, this is one of those things where I have always I've always loved ghost stories, and it's so compelling. It gives you the goosebumps. And even like after, like sometimes I'm not gonna, say that like I'm a true believer, but there's been plenty of times where like I've watched either like a scary movie or like watched like a compelling ghost story on like YouTube or something like that, whatever. And then like, later on at night, like when all the lights are off and you're walking through the house, and like you're worried about like going around like a dark corner and seeing something, or like you feel like something is watching you after that. You're like, I'm just gonna run into this room, turn the lights on.
Yeah, right.
I know
that all too well.
It's very fun. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I'm a true believer, but I want to believe. You know what I mean?
That feeling, like that reminds me of my son, Agent, what is it, Redacted.
You forgot your own son's name?
We watched Sixth Sense for the first time. I thought he'd like it. It's a good movie, and it has that twist at the end. And I'm like, I think he'll like this movie. And I thought it had aged well. So we watched the movie with him. I had the sense he was a little creeped out, but he was trying to like man up, because he's a teenager now. And he's like, no, it was a good movie. I liked it. It was a good movie.
I'm not scared.
Not scared at all. So he goes into the kitchen, and our kitchen has a little window, and it kind of faces downward onto our shed. And Agent Anderson was going out to the shed for some reason, and he peeked in through the window at Agent Redacted, who shrieked and fell backwards onto the floor.
I don't remember. We just keep, miscellaneous stuff in the shed. I don't even know what's in there. But I was going in there for something or to put something in there. And I noticed Agent Redacted at the kitchen sink and the window. The house is a little elevated because it has like that subflooring, like there's space beneath the floor. It's not built on a foundation. So it's a little bit like higher up. So when he's at the sink, he's like looking down at me. So I just kind of like got on my tiptoes. I sort of peeked into the window there. I didn't say anything. I just sort of peeked into the window. and then he looked out. I was not moving. I was just perfectly still looking in. And he looked out and he saw me. I scared. I wasn't not intending to scare him this bad, but I scared him so bad he literally fell down.
Oh, that is awesome.
Probably the scariest he's ever been in his whole life.
I was hoping to scare him a little bit, but not that bad,
Hey, sometimes the results are more than what you expected.
Yeah,
which is
true.
Great. Also,
poor kid.
Traumatize him.
He's going to therapy, and my dad was so weird, and he scared me one time. Hilarious. All right. So Agent Kruger, you're saying you didn't want to take up too much time, but by all means, we're in no hurry here. So if you want to expand on your story at all, feel free to.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we can move on to whoever's next, which we haven't actually decided on.
I got like maybe one more incident that was there at the Queen Mary. We went to I think it was the boiler room at one point. Either the boiler room or like the engine, but it was just like it was like the in between where you could see the giant pistons, like those just massive, absolute gargantuan pistons. Yeah, I believe it was the pistons. And it was like all white, and it was modernized because, at one point I believe like they were actually still using the ship and stuff like that. So it had to be all up to date, like to be able to, pilot it within the bay or something like that. And we kept hearing, it was just us kids at the time, and it was my cousins. And I take this back. I apologize. It literally was just me and my brother. I can't remember who was with me. But what I can remember was that when we were walking, we kept hearing adults talk, like staff members. And we thought but it wasn't anything actually like audibly clear. It was just that murmuring of, you kept hearing somebody agreeing or like disagreeing, but it just felt
you couldn't necessarily tell exactly what they were saying.
Yeah, it almost sounded like they were in working, like they were working. It was an active like people at work, men at work. And so we were like, you know, actually at one point we want to try to find this voice, wherever the hell it was. And anytime we got closer to it or it felt like it was getting louder, we would turn the corner expecting to see somebody and nobody was there. And it was a constant like cat and mouse game, it felt like, where we would go and chase after these voices. And we wouldn't hear, we would hear them, but we couldn't make out what the hell they were saying. But it wasn't until the point where we were like, I'm pretty sure we searched everywhere we can. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like as we were getting quiet, it was like, right, like literally just like this loud hey, but like it was directed at us. Like, and it wasn't, it almost was on the lines of like, well, you know, when somebody's getting mad at you and telling you to get out of there, you can just feel that focused energy, like where it's like, oh shit, he really doesn't like us. Let's get the hell out of there. But I swear to you, like it was on that same level of like, what? Like, but it wasn't audible words. It was like a jumbled up just yell, like a meatball of just nonsense. And when we were all like, oh, let's get out of here. It's security. They don't want us out here, or whatever the fuck it was. We just sprinted. Maybe it was our active imaginations or whatever it was, but we ran the hell out of there. And then when we went to the actual like front desk or whatever, we were just like, they were at like, hey guys, could you not, you know, run around and stuff like that? And like, I was going to be sarcastic or like say something stupid, but instead I started asking them questions like, hey, so who's down there? And there's a couple guys down there, right? And they're like, no, like there's no security, like security's in their office and it's just one dude and he can't run. And sure as hell, he was not like that old, like, I don't know how to say it, but it just felt like like somebody who was at work, like, and no matter what, from what we could understand, nobody was down there and it was just us. And they were even asking us like, so wait, you guys went down there? Please don't go down there. You guys could slip, hurt, get, you know what I mean? It's a whole liability. So please don't. And like, they actually like were getting frustrated with us. And to the point where like, hey, if you guys are down there again, we're going to ask you to leave. And we were like, okay, understandable. But who was down there? They're like, nobody. Nobody's down there. Nobody's scheduled to go down there. Nobody should be down there. And we'll send the security guard down there to make sure everything's okay. But nobody's down there. And I was like, yeah, but they told us to get out. And he's like, who? And he looks over and like you could see the security guard in his office or whatever, like stereotype legs placed up on the desk and everything. And he was just he wasn't down there. He's said like they were convinced that they're like, yeah, well, hey, you know, actually we do get guests that say they hear or feel like somebody's there and that they try to communicate with these people, but they never get a response out of it. And it doesn't go anywhere. And that just sounds like you guys might have had a contact. And it was like, and then not only that, but we were hearing this before we had to go to bed. So none of us slept that night. And it was timing. Like, yeah, thanks. Awesome. Thanks for bringing me, guys. I am permanently scarred from this whole trip. So, but it was awesome. It was great. I highly suggest it. It just seems like there is like a level of ghosts that you hear about or paranormal activity where it could be aggressive or it could be the spiritual type of like, I don't know how to say it, but like, you know, a mutual understanding between the living and the dead, where the dead know that they're no longer living, but they want to make some sort of contact to say like, hey, you know, there's something here. And then there's the opposite where you have like reports of when people go to like visit an old serial killer's home and then they have aggressive and then like aggression or like some sort of anger in that like a presence of anger. And then of course you have the ghost stories and stuff like that you'll see on TV about how some people transform themselves. They're usually a nice happy-go-lucky girl, but she gets in there and now she's super pissed and the guy is super angry and they're just like feeling this intense anger and like wanting to actually hurt the group that they're with, but then they leave and it all washes out from them, which I think is kind of exaggeration of everything. But I mean, it's just like those, in my opinion, like there's probably some other things that I'm not remembering at this key moment, but it was like forever. And still to this day, I am convinced that I've had contact on some level, but it was a distance type of deal, and or something followed me home at one night because my dumbass thought it was a funny idea to go to a place that like people report, you know, some fucked up shit happening. Pardon my language, but it's just like, it's like, I deserve that. And that's how every horror movie starts, right? Is that there's like, or some horror movies start where, you know, it's just dumb teenage kids that go into the quarry or whatever. And then all of a sudden they come back and, you know, 5 go in, 1 comes out. And it's like, it's like they only brought that upon themselves because they wanted to go out and play with ghosts or whatever. But I immediately
like
became
they triggered the
more-
ghost.
Yeah, it's either triggering it or it feeds off of your energy in some facet, and it's like, damn, like I stopped. I went to church a couple days after that just to go, like, but yeah, it's spookier stuff could happen in my life, but for the most part, that. Like, maybe it again, you would have to be there to experience it. Maybe I didn't explain it as well as I could have, where I put an element of fear into it and stuff like that. But, you know, we never really have a straight answer of what happens after death. I mean, is there a place where we can't go? We're in the in-between. We're in purgatory, if you will, that you deal with seeing everybody live a life that you could have had, but you decided to, like, sin and do this and do that, and it just completely took your ticket away from going to either heaven or hell or whatever. I don't know if you want to go to hell. You know, if you're in purgatory, obviously there's some work to be done. If you believe in that, some work to be done.
I don't think you'd ever
still.
want to go to hell.
Right, of course, no. Well, but I mean, the normal people do. There's a couple Satanists that would say different, right? It's just a party down in hell.
Yeah,
so,
I guess, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But I mean, I guarantee, in the energy I felt from those guys, that group of people that were at that bonfire, I shit you not, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they were a couple Satanists, because like it was like. They weren't wearing, like, what we can make out. They weren't wearing robes or anything, but they had tiki torches, and maybe it was
they
like
were
a
nothing.
supremacist. Yeah. And then they had this weird naked person that they brought along and ended
And
up.
a bunch of them were doing the whirly bird, and it freaked me the hell out.
No, but it was just, I could capitalize on that. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. But it was definitely like something I look back at my life and I'm just like, wow, like, that's not fun.
Whoa.
Yeah, say the least. But yeah, please, thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate it. So.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Bravo, I'm very
course.
creeped out.
Yeah, very very
no,
creepy
thank you.
stuff. All right, well, we got a couple more people waiting. We didn't actually decide ahead of time who was going to go next, so who wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right, Agent ETA,
I'll go if
let's
you
hear
guys
it.
don't. Hell yeah. So, all right. So I don't really have any personal experiences of my own, to be quite honest. Like I said before, I've always been really interested in ghost stories. I find it very captivating. And like often I'll listen to somebody's, account of what they went through, and I'll just get goosebumps, and it'll freak me out for the rest of the night, not the rest, but anyways. But I just wanted to talk about a couple little stories that are popular ones that I think if anybody is interested and very familiar with ghost stories, they probably have heard about this stuff. So the first one that I want to talk about is the Bell Witch haunting. And so this happened in Tennessee. It is in Red River, Tennessee, what is today Adams, Tennessee. And it happened in 1817 to roughly about 1821. And the main story basically happens on a farm owned by a farmer named John Bell Sr. And this was a farm that was had a lot of people on it. It had slaves on it as well. And a lot of the stories and accounts came from these slaves as well, and also him and his family. And so it starts off like kind of slow, and they account stuff like just hearing like disembodied voices, the voice of a woman, and like they can't quite tell what she's trying to say or anything like that. But so at any rate, originally John Bell bought this farm in 1802, and he moved from North Carolina to Red River in 1802 and bought a 320-acre farm. And then he started that farm. He became very successful. And later on in 1817, so just to get this out of the way, we could do a whole episode on this this whole haunting. Like it's a big story, and I'm gonna give you like the short and sweet like version of it, because there is so much surrounding it, and then I don't think we have that much time, to be quite honest, so I'm just going to give you the short and sweet version of it. Okay. So in 1817, people on the farm started noticing weird animals, like animals that they couldn't describe. Like, they were like, I don't know what the hell that was that I just saw, right? It wasn't like that, like they were necessarily getting attacked, not at first at least, but they would, have accounts of seeing things that just didn't make sense. And then John Bell himself supposedly had seen basically a black dog with the head of a rabbit that had like red glowing eyes. And like he had heard these accounts from different people on the farm and stuff. And initially he is like, okay, well, all right, I don't know what that is, but I don't know if I believe you, basically, right? So, but once he saw it for himself, then obviously he was a believer. You know what I mean? So it started off kind of like simple like this, where they would see things and like outside the farm, not in the house necessarily, but then it started creeping in towards the house itself. And they would even see things like there's a term for like balls of light that they had back in those days called a dead man's candle. And it's basically like a ball of light that is like hovering like in the woods and stuff. And when they saw this particular thing, it would just be in the woods, but it would start coming closer to the house, but it never got to the house, But there were like balls of flickering lights. And they didn't act like glow bugs or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like the way that they moved seemed to be like spirit, like a spirit is what most people would describe what they thought they saw during that time. So the family started hearing after like this and stuff. They started hearing noises in the house. And it started off simple, like I said, like doors would like it sounded like the doors would like knock close or something like that, or somebody would be knocking on the door. But then they would go check and nobody was there, and then they would also hear sounds of like chains dragging on the ground, and they would go check it out and nothing is there, and they started hearing, like I said, a disembodied voice of a woman. And like they would even hear like sounds of they would complain about like it sounded like a rat was chewing on like the leg post of their bed, and they would get up, light a candle, and see that there was nothing there. There's no damage to the bed, but they heard something that sounded like a rat chewing on wood. They thought it was like either on the bed, the floor, but they would never find any evidence for it, And they would even hear things at nighttime, like sounds of like gasping and choking. And like it freaked them the hell out. They're like, what the hell is going on? And so these ghostly experiences started I guess like not attacking, but becoming more focused on John Bell Sr. himself, and also his daughter Betsy, which actually her name is Elizabeth, but everybody called her Betsy. That was her nickname. So this area and this family was very religious. So John Bell actually thought that, he was convinced that it was a witch that was haunting him. And at one point, he even employed the help of locals around the area, and they came. They had kind of like a seance, I guess you could call it, and they tried to contact the spirit. And they actually supposedly did contact the spirit, and they were able to get her to say her name was Kate. That's what they told him. My name is Kate, and the spirit said it specifically wanted to kill John Bell. I don't know about you, but if I was in that situation, I had a seance and I was the owner of the house and such, I would be freaked the holy hell out. Like, what?
To say the least.
This ghost wants to kill me? It just said it wanted to kill me? What? Now, so a lot of people think the reason why the spirit wanted to kill him is because he was a slaver. And because, that practice, there's a lot of people that suffered, obviously, but at any rate, during the seance, even they heard sound of doors opening and closing, shutting, closed and stuff like that, and they had a whole experience that went on, throughout the night and stuff, and I mean, that's a whole, I mean, I could spend 25, 30 minutes just talking about that seance, the information. Like, there's a lot of information available about this case. And like I said, I'm giving you the short and sweet, simple version, you know. But so the hauntings continued for years. And the hauntings, like I said, started focusing more on John Bell and his daughter Betsy for whatever reason. And the spirit actually, from how the story goes, actually took a liking to John Bell's wife, and like she had some like things going on. Like she would hear these noises and stuff, right, along with all the kids and everything. And but it never really attacked her or did anything to her. You know what I mean? So at any rate, as the years went on, like the spirit became more violent. And as the story goes, like it seems like the reason why it became more violent, it was because it was getting more attention. There was a lot of people from the surrounding areas that started hearing about this story of the Bell Witch and how they were getting terrorized by the spirit, you know, and it became kind of popular. And people would actually come down to the farm to see for themselves. And some people wouldn't have any experiences, but some people would. And like even people that came down to visit and see, and even the kids of John Bell as well, like they would report like being beat by the spirit, yells at night and shrieking at night and stuff like that. And even Betsy herself complained about like shocking sensations that she would get, pain, like that she would be like that would be imposed upon her. She'd be scratched, she'd be beaten, pricked by needles and stuff like that, you know, like scratches and stuff like that, you know, it sounds like this spirit like really went to town on her, I guess you could say. but like it's a pretty compelling story, you know. Like it sounds like a lot of people had quite a bit of experiences, and they weren't really necessarily like bashful about talking about it, which actually is kind of cool because you have more testimony and stuff that you can look into for this case, you know. And so at any rate, as the haunting got like worse and worse, as the spirit or entity, whatever it was, got more attention, it got more and more violent as the years went on. And there's actually kind of a funny story that I read about a man named Frank Miles. And so as the story goes, this guy was 7 feet tall and 300 pounds, right? And so he came there to prove that like, oh, I'm too big and too strong for this spirit to affect me. And in the middle of the night, like, so he went there and he asked the Bell family, can I stay here and experience this and see what happens, right? And so they agreed, and they let him stay. Yeah, go ahead, stay overnight, you know. And so in the middle of the night, the first night he was there, they woke up to him screaming and running around the house frantically. And like, he was obviously very terrified, and he ran away out of the house and never came back. So I guess the spirit bested him, you know. I guess he wasn't too big and too strong, but that's kind of just an anecdotal story attached to this, you know what I mean? And another one actually is in 1819, Andrew Jackson, President Jackson himself, he actually owned land in the area, and he actually made a journey to. He didn't end up getting there, but he wanted to, but he got distracted on the way, I guess you could say. So he owned land in the area, and so he was very familiar with this story. So he wanted to go see for himself. You know, they found it interesting, and him and a lot of his companions that he was traveling on the way there, they were actually threatened by like an unseen force. And like they were like talked to by this disembodied voice that warned them like you know, don't go there, you know, I know where you're going. And like then like you know, there's a woman's voice too, just like all the other tales of the Bell Witch, you know. And you know, the voice told him that I will see you tonight. And like sure enough, from what the accounts say, later on that night the voice came back again. And they even had like you know, like there was a guy with them that was just like a self-proclaimed witch hunter, and like the guy challenged the spirit, and like he ended up getting like struck in the chest or something like that, but by another unseen force. And he was like, all right, nope, never mind, you know, like, all right, yeah, this is too real for me, I guess, you know what I mean? And so he relented. He stopped challenging the spirit. And they even had like stuff like some of the wheels on their carriages and stuff got stuck and like wouldn't move, and it was like unreasonable. They couldn't find out why like the wheel was doing what it was doing. They couldn't find anything wrong with it. It was just stuck and it wouldn't move, and then they had another experience with a disembodied voice that told them, I'm stopping you basically from going forward, and then I will let you go now. What
See, like
have you.
reoccurring themes. Sorry to cut you off, but have you noticed that it's similar to what I heard was just out of like just not making sense. Like it was a jumbled up mess. And then there was when I said I felt like he was telling us to get out in the Queen Mary, like there was that.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like it just
that's a common thing through. I mean, there's a lot of ghost
just
stories.
scared the shit out of me, man. It's still here with me.
So
Get
there's
away.
a lot of events to talk about, and like I said, I'm running through this kind of fast, but there's all kinds of different accounts from people on the property saying that they saw this, they experienced this or that, whatever. They were beaten by a spirit, something that they couldn't even see, right? Or they woke up with bruises or what have you. So there's a lot of crazy
Scratches.
stuff.
I've seen scratches. I haven't had it myself, but I've known
Yeah.
somebody who's woken up in the middle of the night from said that they claimed they slept on the Queen Mary at one point, but they had I don't want to say like a scar that was like gnarly or whatever, but you could still see like when a scar is healing or a scratch is healing, it does have that slight scarring type deal where it's like lighter than your body color or whatever, but like you could see it was on their right shoulder and it was like straight up just a scratch or remnants of that, but she's convinced that she got that when she was on the Queen Mary, and I don't. But yeah, I mean, people talk about bite marks and stuff like that. If I'm getting bite marks anywhere, I'm fucking burning down whatever the hell that was.
I'm out. I am
done.
out.
I'm done. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So to finish up the story, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff that I've passed through, and this is it's a very compelling story with a lot of information attached to it. But so roughly the end of the story kind of ends in like December of 1820, where John Bell actually became very sick and ill, and he fell into a coma, and he ended up passing away, which might have been what was foretold in that original seance when they contacted the spirit, and the spirit said, I'm going to kill John Bell, basically, So, and there's a couple little things that happen after that with some of his like descendants or what have you, but like it's not really, I don't know, it's go look into it yourself if you want to find out about that shit. But anyways, freaking. But this is the main story though, and I find it's one of those like it's kind of a famous story, in like American like ghost lore, and stuff like that. So I thought it was one of those ones. It is one of those ones I just wanted to talk about because I found it compelling myself. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was funny. So, okay. So the second thing I have to talk about is kind of just like I don't know. It's not like it is a ghost story, but it's one of those things that I just thought was very interesting is the ghosts of the White House. Are you guys familiar with this?
I've heard of it. I'm not super familiar, but before you get into that, why don't we switch over to Agent Ether first, who is appears to be getting sleepy.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It's past my bedtime.
To be fair, she does have to wake up early. So why don't we give her a spot for a second here, then we'll circle back.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
you.
That way I can be sleepy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So mine isn't a ghost story either. I think it's kind of spooky, and it's something that's personally happened to me. So I'll start off when I was very young. I was in the car, and we were on a road trip, and this is when I lived in Germany, and we would get terrible snowstorms, just blinding, where you had to like pull over for a while and you couldn't even drive on the roads. And we were going down the Autobahn, and I was like, I just had a funny feeling, and I was like, I don't feel good. And my mom's like, you have a stomach ache? And I was like, sure. I was like, sure, I have a stomach ache. I didn't feel good. I had a bad feeling. I wanted to get out of the car. So she's like, okay, we'll stop off for a while. So we stop off, and when we get back on, there's like tons of traffic. And it turns out there was like a 30-40 car pileup on that highway that we avoided because we stopped off, basically. And so my mom told me this story when I was older. I didn't actually remember it. But then when I was, I want to say like 11 or 12, my mom was going to be barbecuing. And I got this bad feeling, and she was standing in front of the grill, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And there was, I guess the gas was leaking on the grill, and she went to light it. And I swear to you, the fire like went around her body and it lit the tree behind her on fire. So she was
Oh, wow.
between the grill and the tree, and it went like around her and lit the tree on fire. And I had to run upstairs and call the fire department because the tree, which was right next to our house, was on fire. Like the branches overlooked the house. It was like 2 stories. It was a duplex, and we were on the top story. And the fire was gradually making its way up towards the top. So the fire department came out and they put that out. They put that out pretty quick. So my mom's told me this story. She says there's other incidents too from when I was younger. That's the first one that I remember. But then the one I really wanted to focus on was Halloween night.
Yeah, this one is fun because it actually happened on Halloween.
It did.
I was there. Were
And-
you there?
And
I was there.
Agent Anderson was there. He's a witness. So I think this is the Halloween, the last one where we went trick-or-treating.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We were a bit old to be
We
trick-or-treating.
were way too old. Oh, God. I was 16 or 17. We were
Hey,
too
free
old.
candy is always super sweet.
I don't even
that's
think we
not
had...
that old.
I don't even think we had
Yeah.
costumes, though. I think we just went around and
Yeah.
asked for candy.
Hey, I'm here. Give me candy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. We didn't do a lot of houses or anything, just a little bit. And it was kind of like we'd been talking about it, how, you get older and you can't do Halloween anymore. And I was like, let's just go. Just one more time. And Agent Anderson's like, really? And I was like, let's just do it. We're never going to be able to trick or treat again. Let's
Yeah,
just
let's
go.
be kids
So
one,
we
one
did.
last time, right?
One last time. Kind of big for it, but we went. So anyways, it was getting kind of late and I wanted to go home. So I asked him to drive me home. I think at this point I lived like 20 minutes away. I lived in a different city,
Yeah. Not maybe like 15.
maybe like 15,
Yeah.
like down the highway. There's like a highway that connected from where he was living to where I was living. And you go pretty fast on the highway, 50?
No, it was not highway. We were taking Grand Avenue. It was not the
Yeah.
highway.
How many miles per hour are you supposed to go on that though?
I think probably
Yeah, speed
45.
limit was
45. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you get pretty fast though. 45 is pretty fast. So
Well,
Anyways.
not really.
shh,
No,
I'm
it's not.
telling a story.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So we're on our way back and we're driving and it's dark. And we're in the left-hand turn lane and Agent Anderson has his turn signal on. And again, I don't know, something was wrong. And I said, is this the right lane?
Well, let me preface this by saying it. I think Agent ETA would be familiar with this particular area. It's when
Yeah.
you take Grand Avenue over the hill headed towards Covina, and how you go
Yeah,
up the
yeah.
hill and then you go back down the hill, and when you come down the hill, it kind of curves around. You can't really see behind you that well because it's like down the
Coming
hill.
towards
and-
like Valley Boulevard or Valley Avenue, whatever.
yeah, well, past that, yeah, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, but like you just keep going on Grand, and it eventually goes, over to like it's sort of, you could do it instead of the freeway if there's traffic or whatever, but it's sort of, it's kind of a more direct route. But yeah, past Valley, just keep going.
It's one of the main streets in the area.
Yeah, so you go down, and it kind of, you go up the hill and you go down the hill, and it kind of curves around. So where we were in a left turn lane. There were 2 left turn lanes where we were, and you can't really see what's behind us because it's a pretty good curve. You can't see the oncoming traffic. So we're in the
Yeah.
left turn lane. I believe there's 1 car in front of us, and there was, I think, 2 cars behind us, and we're waiting to turn left. Or maybe I was the front car. Was I the front car?
You were the front car.
I was the front car. That's right. Yeah. Okay. So that's sort of the setting, just to sort of, spell it,
Spell out what's
spell
going
it out
on.
what's going on there. Cause
There are other
Hey, and
cars.
by the way,
It's-
Agent Anderson,
it's
I don't
important.
know why I'm interested in this, but
Yeah.
what car were you driving? Because I remember a lot of your cars.
it was
when we were
little. It was
younger
the
and
little
stuff.
car.
it was the Honda
Yeah.
Honda
Civic.
Little tiny Honda Civic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We're in this little Civic. We're in the left turn lane, And
hatchback.
I don't want to say I'm freaking out,
Yeah,
but
I remember that.
I'm like pretty insistent that we're like not in the correct lane. And just as I'm like thinking that I'm going to have to ask him to move or something because I'm feeling so uncomfortable, there's this loud boom, like a crash. And then a second later, everything went dark for me for like, I don't know how long. And when I come to, just our car is total, and there's other cars around us, and it's just complete chaos. Complete chaos. It was a terrible car accident. Some stupid drunk teenager had come down the hill and he hit multiple cars, not just us.
It was a mess. And she was she was kind of freaking out. She's like, "You're in the wrong lane. You need to move lanes or whatever." I'm like, "I can't. It's a red light. I'm in the correct lane. We need to go left here to get to your house. This is the way you go." And I didn't understand why she was so upset. And like I said, you couldn't see behind us. You couldn't see that there was even cars coming. And even if you did see there was cars coming, you would assume that they were going to stop at the red light. So the light turns green, and then just as it turns green, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. True story.
Yeah. And it hit us so hard. This kid hit us so hard that I think there was 2 cars behind us, and it still sent us spinning, totaled my car, sent us spinning into the intersection. And it was just, a pretty messy situation. Luckily, nobody was hurt so badly that they had to go to the hospital, at least not that I'm aware of. But it was a pretty bad accident. And the worst thing for me was that I think this kid was, I don't know, maybe he was the mayor's son or something, but they kind of just let him go.
Yeah.
They didn't really do anything
Really?
about it. The cops were just like, "All right, cool beans, peace out." Like, what? Like, this kid is clearly drunk or something. You guys ain't going to do something? Like, nah, it's good. All right, well, all right, that's fine.
Yeah,
I
it
guess,
sounds like they were being lazy.
yeah, maybe, who knows? But yeah, it was a strange situation.
Yeah. And since then, I've had a couple other like small incidents. Like once I was driving somewhere and I was going kind of fast and I was going to turn right. And I just felt like I needed to slow down. I was just like, you know what? I need to slow down. And I turned the corner and a ball, bounces in front of my car, and a little kid goes and runs right in front of my car to get the ball.
Wow.
So, and I wasn't going very fast, so I was able to stop. Like I didn't even have to screech my brakes or anything.
Agent Ether, you either have an angel that is looking out for you, or you're like telepathic or something. Like
yeah.
There's something going on there, I think, for sure.
Okay, one more that I can remember is I went to visit my mom, and I was in my S10 in my truck. And we were talking about this. We were talking about this very subject and kind of relating all the things that had happened in my life and how weird it was. And she's like, "Why are you bringing this up? Do you have a feeling?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I don't know what it is. And it's not a bad feeling. I was like, I don't know. So then Agent Anderson and I were driving home and the truck spun out. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah, it was weird because we were just getting onto the on-ramp of a freeway.
We were just driving.
And just...
I remember this. I remember when this happened, yeah.
Yeah. And it was raining out. So that kind of explains it. The ground was wet. But I was just going on to the on-ramp, and then the truck we spun out, and then the rear wheel slammed into the curb, basically. And nobody hit us. We didn't hit anybody else. But we did mess up that axle a little bit. The car did wobble from then on.
It was at the 5760 interchange, right?
No.
No, it was
Or am
up
I
in
wrong about
LA.
that?
Yeah, it was
North LA.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was mistaken. Okay.
But it was just so random. Like I drove that truck all the time. I was driving at the time. I drove that thing all the time, and even in the rain, but had never done that before. But it was a rear wheel drive, so it handled a little differently than what you'd expect from like a front wheel drive.
The back end of that truck is very light. But I remember that truck. I remember that truck that you had, and that's a good little truck. It's a tough. I'm familiar with those trucks. I've worked on them before, and they're good little trucks, but they are a little light in the ass,
Oh, for sure, yeah. So I mean, it could have been just like because it was wet out and it just, just so happened to spin out. But it was a very unusual situation,
Yeah,
Like,
and I'm kind of torn here. On the one hand, I'm like, well, maybe some things in life are going to happen, like fate. Like there's nothing you can do about them. So it doesn't matter whether or not I have these feelings because these things are still going to happen. And then on the other hand, like Agent ETA said, sometimes I feel like there's like this higher power, not necessarily watching out over me, but it makes me feel like there is a higher power. There's something more connecting
sounds
us
like
in the universe.
Yeah, you're connected with something that gives you these feelings or gives you these warnings or what have you. And I've heard many stories like this before also, like there's people that have all kinds of stories like this, and I think there's something to it. I really do. There's a spiritual side of existence that I don't think we necessarily understand. You know what I mean? And there's enough there to make me think that I think it's real, to be quite honest. I mean, maybe I'm getting into a little bit of the woo-woo, like stuff, but like, I think there's something there. And, it's for you to have this many experiences with this many, like feelings before something happened, like something gave you kind of a warning or what have you. I think it's something that you're in tune with that maybe you have not necessarily connected with fully, but maybe you could. I don't know. I don't know much about this topic, but I think there's absolutely something there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. So yeah, that's basically my spooky story.
Spooky.
Spooky. All right. I have a spooky story of my own to share. I used to work at a movie theater in, don't worry about the decade. It was a while ago. This was back.
Brea?
No, it was in the 90s. And this was back when we used to have movies on actual film, not on discs or digital or whatever it is nowadays. But back then, you used to have these, it would come in like reels, usually, between usually 5 or 6 reels, depending on the length of the movie. And you would have to actually physically like tape the reels together. You'd have to splice them together and you'd have to put them on this big platter that would feed through the projector, right? So the projectors would have like 3 platters. So you could actually have 2 movies in each theater, right? Because one platter goes to another, it has to go to an empty platter. But if you have 2 movies there. So anyways, there's 3 platters. Now, when I was working there, everybody kept telling me that the place was supposed to be haunted, and it did feel creepy. I'm not going to lie, but I always just sort of dismissed it as nothing. But when I was putting the movies together, we did it on Fridays. And because this movie theater, it was in the same complex as like a business building. There was disputes over parking or whatever, so they made an agreement to not be open during the day. So on Fridays, they would put movies together like Thursday nights, like really late, but I would do it Friday during the day, and I would be like sometimes the only person in the entire building. Sometimes the manager would be there, sometimes they would not, but often I would just be all alone all day for like a 6-hour or 8-hour shift. I'd just be there all by myself, putting movies together. It was a badass job. I loved it. But that upstairs, that empty upstairs where all the projectors are, it's got a creepy feel. And I'm willing to bet that most theaters, whether or not they're haunted, have that creepy feel when you're all alone. Because, it's the lights are all dim and dark and stuff all the time. Like, the lights weren't that great. And I don't know, it just had this creepy feel to it. But anyways, one time I was putting together a movie. Now there's like a table with like this reel-to-reel thing and like the splicer and all the tools you need and all the stuff you need, supplies and whatever to build the movies. And I was putting together a movie, and behind me was theater number 6 because we had an 8-seat or 8-theater building, right? And the upstairs, it was you'd have facing theater number 6 to the left. You'd start with theaters 1 through 5, then you're at theater 6, then to the right would be 7 and 8. The table to build the movies was in front of theater number 6, and the table you used wasn't that big. So when you're putting together like all these advertisements and movie trailers, like Coca-Cola trailers and New York Times trailers and, whatever previews you got to splice on at the beginning of this thing. Like we actually had to do that all by hand back in the day. And it was a pain in the ass, let me tell you, because if you needed to change out, like opening week, they would pay for, okay, we're paying for a spot on the, the first spot on this to be the first spot on this movie. And then after 2 weeks to be like, okay, change out just the one in the middle. So let's say there's like 5 previews. You'd have to go and switch out preview number 3. It was a pain in the ass. But anyways, I would always build the movies on the table and theater 6 was behind me. And I'd run out of room on the table sometimes. So I would put stuff on the platter behind me. Now, when I say platter, I mean platter. These things were pretty big, like, I don't know, maybe 4 feet across or something. They were very large platters because when you put the movie together, you're talking about like a mile of film. Like we're talking about like a butt ton of film, not like little, camera that you're used to if you had a camera back in the day with the film. We're talking about like a butt ton of film. So much that like sometimes when I was doing the reel-to-reel thing, I would like put my fingers, you don't touch it because you don't want your finger oil getting on there and messing it up. But I would get my fingers close to the film and let like the static discharge like build up and see how far I could get the electricity to arc. And sometimes I was actually able to burn my index finger when I went to arc the,
No shit.
Like, you zap your friend, but like, because you got to you tape it together and then you do the reel-to-reel thing and then it goes, takes a little bit of time. So, I'd get bored and I'd just be like, seeing how much electricity I could build up and then zap. I mean, if anybody else was ever in the building, I'd be like, hey, come up here for a second. Come here for a second. Zap.
Gotcha.
Needless to say,
Got him.
After a
you
little,
had a pacemaker? Oh no, why didn't you tell me?
people left me alone for after that. but anyways, so I would put stuff behind me on the platter, on the upper platter, like let's say a movie previews, and a movie preview, they're generally going to be like something like 3 inches in diameter total film. They're not like a full movie, obviously. So it's just a little bit of film, like a little bundle of film. It just, you just wrap it up when you're done with it back into like a little circle. Is probably, about 3 inches or so. And I would stack those over there or maybe put, maybe a roll of tape or whatever I needed to put over there, if I needed extra room. But this one time, I put a couple of previews up there and, whatever supplies were on there, maybe masking tape. Sometimes you'd use stuff like that, whatever. So I was doing the reel-to-reel thing, doing my splices or whatever. And I just got this strange feeling that kind of, when it kind of makes your hair stand on end, like that feeling.
Oh yeah.
I know it sounds cheesy, but it's real. Like this.
I've been there too.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I turn around and the stuff on the platter turns 180 degrees exactly to where the previews that I had on there, the little previews, the individual ones that I was about to splice into the beginning of the movie, turned 180 degrees to be exactly opposite from me on the platter. Like the platter just rotated by itself 180 degrees. And I was kind of like freaked out about that. like, what the hell?
Well, yeah, that's
I would be too. Hell yeah.
I
mean,
witness that
at the time. At the time, I spun the platter back towards me because they weren't. The platters were free spinning. You could just go around and spin them if you wanted to. So I just spun it back to me and just continued working, trying my best not to be completely freaked out. But like when I clocked out and went home, I was sort of getting the chills driving home. Like, what the crap was that? Now, you might say that the platter was off balance or that maybe the air conditioning turned on and made it spin or whatever. But this only happened once, just this one time, and never before and never after. And the platters are not motorized. They don't spin themselves. At least these ones didn't.
They're just like set up on bearings.
Yeah,
right?
they're basically,
right? Like
they're just on bearings. Yeah, so there's no plausible explanation as to why this thing would have spun itself. I mean, you could think of something, I don't know, but
earthquake.
well, and also it's a heavy
Yeah.
enough like apparatus to where like wind or something like that or air conditioning is not gonna, like a fan, even if a fan is on or something, it's not gonna move it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly, yeah. but it was just a really, really weird experience where I was just like, what in the hell just happened there? I don't know. It was very strange.
I actually, you know what's kind of crazy? Like, because I worked in a movie theater also for a little bit, and it was a little bit closer to home where we originally grew up. But I don't know if you remember down at the shopping center close to our house, we had Global Cinema 8.
Yeah.
And it was a
Global Cinema 8.
I will tell you, it was a great time. We had all sorts of fun, but it was a shit show as far as the company is concerned. Like there's no, there's a reason why that cinema didn't last very long. It wasn't ran very well. But anyways, I remember it's kind of crazy. I completely forgot about this shit, dude. Completely forgot about it. I remember we had this guy Shoaib, and he was the guy that would did exactly the job that you were just describing. He would be he was a projectionist. He would put together the film reels and stuff like that and make everything work, right? And so, but I remember one time I went up there and he was up there doing his thing, right? And we had a storage room with all the candy and popcorn supplies and stuff. I had to go up there to resupply, and so I went up there and it was weird because I had that feeling of like somebody's watching me, you know what I mean? It was unexplainable. And it is funny too, because Shoaib was up there too. I wasn't alone. He wasn't in the same room that I was, but I wasn't alone necessarily because the room was right next to, but anyways, so, I was up there and I was getting, what were the candies? What were the sour ones?
Sour Patch.
Sour Patches?
Sour Patches, yes. We had those, and I also had to get more like popcorn, for the popcorn machine, and the seasonings and stuff too. And so I had to I was grabbing stuff off the shelf, and maybe it was just the vibrations I was creating and what have you, but a package of popcorn seasoning just came off the shelf and fell on the ground right behind me. I turned around because I heard the sound, you know what I mean? I was like, what the fuck was that? And I seen it on the ground. I was like, did I knock that with my ass or did that just happen? And it was weird. So I came out of the storage room and I had this kind of bewildered look on my face, I guess, from what Shoaib described. And he was like, what happened, dude? And I was like, I don't know what just happened. I was like, well, one of the seasoning packets right there, that big bag of it just fell off the shelf behind me. I don't think I was close enough to knock it off the shelf, but it did. And he's like, dude, that shit happens to me all the time up here. And I was like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? And he started telling me all these different experiences that he had, and from stuff what Agent Anderson was talking about to just stuff flying off the shelves and stuff. But it didn't make much sense to me because it's not like this as far as I know, this land or this area didn't have much history as far as anything related to this, I guess.
Yes, officer, the fire started before I got there. I don't know how else to tell you. Fuck that.
Well, no, it was just a funny experience because I something weird happened to me, and then like Shoaib was just like, I know what just happened to you.
Sounds like such a
you know what I mean?
Shoaib. I love that. Though.
No, that was his name, Shoaib, dude. Dude was a cool freaking dude. He was an Indian guy, but he was one of my best buds there. The dude was awesome. But we would go out and party and stuff. But anyways, freaking it just like I said, unbeknownst to me, and I had never heard this from him before this happened. That he had been having experiences up there all the time, and he was just dealing with it. I guess you know what I mean. He didn't really talk about it. But I guess that's just a small, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's just a small anecdotal story. And it's weird. I had completely forgot about that until Agent Anderson started talking about his story there. And I was like, oh shit, that's right. I remember that when that happened, but it was such a kind of a small thing where I really didn't make much of it, except that Shoaib said that he had all these experiences up there and stuff. So it wasn't necessarily something that happened to me. It did a little bit, but only a little bit. You know what I mean? And so I kind of I was like, I probably bumped it with my ass. You know what I mean? I hit the shelving rack, or something like that and bumped it and then it fell off, That's kind of what I chalked it up to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you think that a public place like that, like a movie theater with so many people coming in and out throughout the years, sooner or later, somebody's going to have a heart attack and pass away there. So that's one possibility. The one where I worked, people thought it was haunted because there was an assistant manager that was not that long before I started working there, had died in a horrible car crash. And after that, people had started having strange experiences there. So that's why they thought it was haunted. But whether it was that or maybe some guests had a medical emergency there or it's something else entirely, I don't know. Maybe it's just sort of, it manifests, these things can manifest themselves based on sort of energy. So if you're in a place like, the upstairs of a movie theater, it's creepy all the time. So whenever people go up there, they become fearful and sort of creeped out. Maybe that just sort of allows this sort of manifestation, whatever it may be. I don't know.
Your energy is almost like drawing this type of experience towards you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. But all right. So it's getting a little late here. We're about hour, 20 minutes or so.
But Agent ETA had one more story.
I know. I also have one more story too, but I'm thinking, why don't we reconvene next week for Spoopy Stories Part 2?
Number 2.
Yes, number 2. That way
agree.
we don't have to feel rushed or anything. We can do more Spoopy stories.
Sounds
Maybe
good.
Android will be awake by then, huh? Good morning, Android. Might I add? Good morning.
And everybody else in our live audience, well, might as well give them a shout out. We got Murphy, Aussie Mima, Diamond, Mr. Punk, Kokichi, and Android are currently still. There's some other people who are popping in and out throughout the thing, but that's who we got listening
guys
live on
actually-
Discord right now.
They were
Thank
here
you
from the
all.
beginning. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thank you so much for sticking around, guys.
Yeah,
You
we
guys
really
are awesome.
appreciate
You're
it, guys.
legends.
Absolute legends.
We really appreciate you guys showing up for the live show.
All right, folks.
Agent Ether?
Keep it strange.
Okay.